The auto world just got rocked. Toyota, the world's largest car maker, has dropped a financial bombshell, a $1.3 billion loss, and it's all traced back to one unexpected hit: new U.S. tariffs. In early May 2025, headlines lit up across global media. From Reuters to Kyodo News, the story was clear. Toyota, once nearly untouchable, just got slammed by a trade war it didn't see coming. And the worst part? This isn't a one-time stumble. The company is now forecasting a 35% plunge in profits for the rest of the fiscal year, its sharpest drop in more than a decade. For Toyota, this is more than a financial loss. It's a warning shot to every multinational caught between global supply chains and rising economic nationalism. So how did this happen? It started with a policy shift in Washington. In March, the U.S. administration announced a new round of tariffs on foreign-made vehicles and parts, aimed at boosting American auto jobs and reshoring supply chains. The move was framed as economic self-defense, protecting U.S. workers and companies from what it called unfair competition. But for Toyota, which still imports critical parts from Japan and assembles many of its models overseas, the cost hit like a freight train. These tariffs weren't symbolic. They targeted core vehicle categories: engines, drivetrains, semiconductors, and EV battery components. And they arrived just as Toyota was ramping up its U.S. operations for the next fiscal year. Caught off guard, the company saw tariffs eat directly into margins. CEO Koji Sato described it simply: "These actions have forced us to absorb billions in unexpected costs overnight." The numbers are staggering. In a revised earnings call on May 9th, Toyota forecasted just 3.1 trillion yen in net profit, $21.6 billion, for the fiscal year ending March 2026, down from over 4.7 trillion yen, $32.8 billion, last year. That's a 35% wipeout. Investors didn't wait. Shares in Tokyo dropped nearly 7% overnight, wiping billions from Toyota's market cap. Ratings agencies signaled concern. Analysts at Nomura and JP Morgan called the move a major blow to Japan's industrial base. And it's not just about numbers. This collapse has reignited an even bigger fear. If even Toyota, the poster child of global efficiency, can't shield itself from tariff shocks, what happens to everyone else? In Indiana, the silence was deafening. Toyota's major manufacturing plant in Princeton, Indiana, one of its most productive U.S. sites, was temporarily shut down in late April. The reason? Parts shortages, tariff-related inventory delays, and cost-cutting ripple effects from the new trade rules. Local workers were hit hard. Over 5,000 employees, including contractors and logistics support staff, were impacted. Some were shifted to reduced hours, others temporarily furloughed. "We didn't see it coming," said one plant worker in a leaked local news interview. "They said it was just a pause, but no one knows what's next. This isn't just one factory, it's a symbol, a sign that geopolitical decisions now hit right on the assembly line, where middle-class jobs are tied to fragile global flows." And the financial pain doesn't stop at tariffs. Toyota also faces $5 billion in losses from currency fluctuations, driven by a volatile yen that's made exports less profitable. Add to that a $2.3 billion surge in raw material costs, from lithium and cobalt to steel, and you've got a triple blow. Even Toyota's legendary cost-efficiency machine couldn't outrun the storm. This is a once-in-a-decade collision of trade, currency, and resource pressures, said a report from France 24. Unlike past slowdowns, this isn't just market-driven. It's the direct consequence of political and macroeconomic moves, from Washington's tariff push to broader global inflation and supply chain instability. Faced with the largest shock to its U.S. operations in years, Toyota is now scrambling to adapt. In May, the company announced a restructuring plan to localize more production inside the U.S., especially electric vehicle assembly and parts manufacturing. They've hinted at accelerated investments in Kentucky, Texas, and North Carolina, hoping to dodge future tariffs by building American-made supply lines. But there's a catch: building new capacity takes years. And investors are asking, why didn't this pivot come sooner? One senior Toyota executive reportedly told Le Guide de l'Auto, "We believed we had more time. But the political winds change faster than our strategy." The question now is whether Toyota can move fast enough to protect its crown in the American market, or whether this is just the first crack in a larger collapse. As Toyota stumbles, others are racing to fill the gap. In just the past 2 months, Hyundai and BYD have ramped up marketing campaigns across the United States, slashing prices, pushing tax incentive eligibility, and flooding dealerships with inventory. Hyundai's U.S. EV sales rose 18% in April, while BYD, China's EV giant, quietly signed 2 new U.S. dealership distribution deals in Southern California and Texas. "Toyota's pain is our opening," said one Korean executive in an off-the-record comment to Reuters. What makes it worse for Toyota? Some of these rival firms benefit from U.S. green energy subsidies and lack exposure to the new tariffs, because they already manufacture final assembly or battery components in North America or use Mexico as a loophole. In other words, Toyota got hit. But others were already playing a different game. The tariffs that triggered Toyota's $1.3 billion loss weren't just economic tools. They've become a diplomatic fault line. Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry issued a rare public statement in late April, expressing deep concern over the U.S. trade measures that disproportionately affect Japanese automakers. Behind the scenes, Tokyo is applying quiet pressure. According to Kyodo News, Japan has requested bilateral trade consultations under the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, specifically calling for tariff exemptions for Japanese EVs. So far, Washington hasn't budged. The U.S. Trade Representative's office said the tariffs were consistent with protecting domestic manufacturing interests. This is no longer just about Toyota. It's about how much sway America's closest Pacific ally really has in Washington, and whether loyalty still comes with trade perks in the new geopolitical era. Biden to Trump transition has reset everything. With Trump now back in the White House and tariffs back on the table, U.S. industrial policy is swinging hard toward protectionism. But it's not always consistent or clear. U.S. automakers benefit from tariffs on Toyota, but they're also hurt by Japanese retaliation or delays in global battery supply chains. GM and Ford executives are reportedly worried that escalating trade tension could trigger countermeasures that backfire on American exports. We're not against fair competition, but what we're seeing now feels more like political whiplash, one industry official told the U.S. Sun. Meanwhile, lawmakers in key manufacturing states are split. Michigan wants more protection. Texas, where Toyota employs thousands, wants exemptions. California is caught in the EV climate battle. This isn't strategy. It's a tug-of-war that's spilling into factories, markets, and alliances. Toyota's leadership knows this isn't just a bad quarter. It's a signal that the global rules have changed. And now they have to catch up. The company is already redrawing its North American supply chains, accelerating plans to localize battery production in North Carolina, and exploring a $3.5 billion expansion of EV component manufacturing in Mexico. That move could help Toyota sidestep tariffs while staying inside USMCA trade rules. But localization won't fix everything. "We built our strategy around a stable, rules-based order," said a Toyota executive, speaking anonymously. That order is gone. Toyota's deeper problem is strategic inertia. The company bet cautiously on hybrids and was slow to embrace full electrification. Now it's stuck between a U.S. policy revolution, Chinese tech dominance, and European emissions rules, all shifting faster than its boardroom decisions. Toyota isn't alone. This $1.3 billion hit is just a piece of a bigger trend, the unraveling of globalization in the auto industry. In the last 12 months, the EU has opened an anti-subsidy investigation into Chinese EVs. China imposed export controls on graphite, essential for EV batteries. The U.S. has issued new rules excluding foreign-made batteries from its EV tax credits. India is hiking import duties to force carmakers to make in India. Global trade in cars and parts is no longer about efficiency. It's about leverage, loyalty, and local advantage. Toyota's loss is a warning. The era of smooth, borderless supply chains is over. The $1.3 billion loss is painful, but it's also just the start. What this moment reveals is a fundamental shift in how the global auto game is played. Ford, Tesla, BYD, and Toyota aren't just competing on price or design. They're now navigating trade policy, geopolitical alliances, and economic nationalism. Toyota's traditional edge, reliability, scale, and hybrid dominance, isn't enough anymore. If it can't adapt faster to political shocks and electrification demands, its position as a global leader could erode. And it's not just about Toyota. Every automaker is now in a race, not just for market share, but for geo-economic survival. Because in this new world, building cars is no longer just business, it's national strategy.